Hey guys, welcome back to Soul Food Sunday. You got your girl Rhea, if you love me. And I have someone very, very special, Miss Anne Marie. Go ahead and tell them what you do and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Korea. I love your energy, so I'm super excited to be here. So yeah, I am an ADHD coach for entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are super easily distracted and they're kind of feeling like they're getting in their own way. They're feeling really frustrated. They're feeling overwhelmed. And they're really struggling to get the results in their business that they want to. And so it's what I call the made for more entrepreneur. So somebody who just knows deep down inside that they're made for so much more.
For sure.
And yeah, I help them just move to a place where they're feeling like a powerful CEO, where they're feeling more confident about how their brain operates, how they're showing up in their business so that they can start creating these amazing businesses that are of ease and flow and unique to how they operate. So super
Yes,
cool.
yes. If you guys don't know, I actually have ADHD. So when I came across Anne's page, I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like this is for me. Somebody who knows what I'm going through, right? And
Yeah.
for so long, to be honest with you, I got diagnosed at a very, very young age. But I hid my diagnosis um, once I moved to Atlanta, and I was in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably
Mm-hmm.
through elementary and middle school, people probably knew because I was in the smaller classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, but often because I used to
Yeah.
act up. And when I got kicked out of class, I used to have to go there, right?
Yeah, same.
So they didn't really want to deal with us, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so people like maybe I grew up with knew that, but when I moved to Georgia, I had the beautiful thing to be able to like reset my whole life. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem with that is that I struggled, right? And so I love to hear and be able to relate to people, who endure, similar things on an everyday thing of things that you cannot help, right? So tell me, how did you get into like saying, okay, I'm going to be a coach for people like me?
Yeah, so actually it was really, I had a very similar experience to you, I think that is the story. The narrative is that when you get diagnosed when you're younger, you don't want to be different from the other kids. You don't want to be put into, me and my one friend, we used to call it like quote unquote the special classes, right? Because we
Right,
got to go do math class with calculators where everybody else was like, why are you in there? Why do you get calculators?
right,
Why do you get extra time on your tests?
right.
And so at the time it was very much like you hated it. And
For sure.
so
Hell yeah.
I just felt a lot of shame with it. I pretended it, when I got to a point I would pretend that it kind of didn't exist.
Hmm.
And so it was this part of me that I had just pushed under the rug. And
Mm,
when I it was funny because I hated that part of me so much. And when I started working with a business coach, I went to her and I said, look, I just want to be successful, but I have no idea what I'm going to do. And she was like,
mm.
I don't work with people like that, but let's give it a try.
Right.
So we kind of threw around some ideas. And so she kind of helped me come up with ADHD coaching. And at first I was like, no, because of the stigma. And
Right.
I was just in a lot of these Facebook groups and I was like,
Mm.
oh, they were just very not empowering, not positive. And I was like, oh God, I can't. No, 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 no. So
Yeah.
I dipped my toes into it for a little while. And then I was like, no, I can't. Then I
Right.
like played around with some other things. And then I kept coming back to it. And I was like, I think this community needs help. And um the more that I kind of started to lean into it and warm up to it, the more that I was
Mm.
like, holy cow, I was grateful enough that when I was younger, my mom was like a huge advocate for me for getting extra support and taking me to
Mm.
all these extra tutoring, all these extra like specialist offices, like doing a
Yeah.
brain gym and all this just extra support for me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that, wow, I had all so many tools for like, 20 years.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to be helping other people because I was fortunate enough to have extra support.
Mm.
And so then the more that I started looking into it, I was like, wow, I've actually been really blessed with the position that I'm in to help other people. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of how I started into it. And I started helping women with their confidence in terms of
Mhm.
ADHD.
Mhm.
Um, and then the reason that I got into working with entrepreneurs was because I just couldn't stop talking to them about entrepreneurship and business. And I was like, not all these women have businesses. I think I need to work with entrepreneurs.
Been there, been there.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's kind of like how it all came to the surface for me. And now that I'm actually in this space, I
Mm.
am like a huge advocate of allowing other people to see their light through ADHD and removing the big stigmas that are in the world about it, right? Because
Right.
you mentioned as well, you also hit it. So it doesn't have to be like that. So I want to allow people to see it as this
Normalize
amazing,
it.
yeah, normalize it. Yeah.
For sure. What would you, for someone who does experience, like, a lot of distraction, and they're having problems focusing when you have the world around you, saying discipline yourself, this and that, what does that look like, incorporating, a schedule that can be for you?
Hmm. Yeah, so I am, I guess, very contrarian to what most people say, right? I think
Me too.
focus is like such a huge buzzword in the ADHD space.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that the more that you force yourself into focusing and believe that you have to focus, it actually keeps you broke, right? It's something that I talk a lot about is what you believe about ADHD is keeping you broke. That is one of the beliefs, that you need more focus, because you
Wow.
don't, right? You don't
Wow.
need any more focus. What you need is to set up a strategy for yourself, not just strategies, but learning how to appreciate your brain, how to work with it, and then creating the systems within your business to
Mhm.
support you to doing that. Because for me, I am the most distracted I've ever been in my life, and I'm making the most money that I ever have.
Wow.
So the more that I forced myself into focusing were some of the lowest points of my life, in terms of I was just really hating myself, hating my brain, just being super hard on myself that I couldn't focus. And a lot of people do that. They force themselves into focusing. They spend so much time and wasted energy trying to force themselves into focusing that they're not actually focusing on, ironically, building their businesses. So
Right.
when you're trying to set up this system for yourself, it's just allowing your brain to expand and show up the way that it wants to. So,
Mm.
I have a system in place for myself that, okay, I have my Google Calendar, and I use this planner that's my total Bible, called the Align Planner.
Okay.
And I just cross reference everything all the time, but I'll work on a few things at once, and if I have an idea that comes inside of my brain, and I'll just go and do it, right? So
Mm.
it's kind of like how I use my planner and how I use my Google Calendar, which is something I teach in my programs a lot.
Yeah.
How can you let your brain still be distracted, but you're still getting your to-do list done?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
um, wow. Still allowing your brain to be distracted, but you're still getting stuff done. That almost sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, like the way that in the Align Planner, there's three things. Like at the beginning of the week, you have three goals for yourself that you set. Each day, you also have like three main tasks, which are like, my income producing activities, the things that I have to get
Mm.
done every day that bring me income.
Right.
And then I have like another task list of like all the other extra optionals,
Right.
right?
Right.
So sometimes, it's like, okay, cool, here's what I need to get done today. I'm going to kind of bounce around between all of these, but my top threes that are associated with my weekly goals, which like
Hmm.
are associated to my bigger goals, those are like my non-negotiables that have to get done for the week, that have to
Yeah.
get done in the day. What
Mm.
order they get done in isn't necessarily
Mm.
the order that I've written them down on.
Yeah.
But the more that I flow between and just let my brain come up with these ideas, right? Like I'll come up with creative reels when I'm in the middle of working and I'll just stop everything and create a
Right.
reel, right? It's
Hmm.
just how my brain
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
And, I think too, kind of going to the impulsivity side of ADHD, it's something a lot of ADHDers, they hate, like, oh, I'm so impulsive.
Mm.
I am so glad I'm impulsive because I would not
Yes,
have the
talk about
business.
this because I know when we chatted
Yeah.
um a couple weeks ago, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but yeah, talk about this.
Yeah. So I love my impulsivity like so much, because if I was not the level of impulsivity that I had, there's no way my business would be where it is now.
Mm,
Right. And Forbes even mentioned in one of their articles that ADHD is the entrepreneur's superpower, right?
mm,
Because we are the people who are willing to take risks.
mm-hmm,
I see something like one of my coaching programs that I registered in. At the time, it was super, super expensive for me, right? The first
mm-hmm.
payment, I was like, oh, I really wanted to join. And I looked at my bank account. I'm like, okay, I've paid rent, I paid my car, I paid my phone bill. Okay, let's go. I just quickly hit send, like enter on it, right? The keyboard. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh my
yeah.
God, cringe. But then, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make the rest of the payments, but I figured it out. And if I was somebody who wasn't impulsive in that moment, I wouldn't have done it. My business would
Mm,
not have grown in the quick period of time that it has, so that I could
right.
10x that income back.
For sure. For sure.
So,
For sure. So it definitely has, I would honestly say it definitely has its advantages,
yeah.
especially on that risk stuff,
Oh my
with being
gosh,
an
yeah.
entrepreneur and the ability to be able to jump from thing to thing,
Mm.
and be extremely multifaceted.
What's something that you've been really impulsive on that worked out in your favor?
That's worked in my favor.
Yeah.
I be feeling, I be, I be messing up, boy. I be like, whoo. Now to be honest with you, because of the amount of impulsivity I've experienced, I now take like certain times I'll take 24 hours to make decisions. I've had to put myself in that because
Mhm.
I know that I will do something because I need to look at my motive behind it. So that's something that I've had to tame myself on because of the fact that I've experienced such drastic impulsive experiences based upon,
Mhm.
my behavior. So I'm a I've
Mhm.
I've probably tamed mine a whole lot because of some experiences I've had. But
Mhm.
I would say in regards to where it's benefited me probably within the last year or so is definitely being able to more so almost like you in regards to investing in myself, but also being willing to start over and being willing to lose and what it looks like to lose. I think that has benefited me a lot. Like being able to take the risk, lose, but then get back up and win again. Like the
Mhm.
resilience piece of it. So I think that's yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you actually brought that point up, right? Because I think understanding yourself and understanding some of the behaviors, right?
Mhm.
Obviously there is impulsive behaviors that are maybe not serving us, that we need to take a look at and say, okay,
Right.
how can I harness the impulsivity? Like, in what areas of my life does it help me? For example, a
Mhm.
lot of entrepreneurs are like the creativity, oh, I just want to reach out to this person and collaborate with them. And so it's like you
Yeah.
just message them straight away. You don't really think
Yeah.
about it, right? So in what ways can you harness it to help you? And then, yeah, there's going to be some areas that you need to take a look at. So
For sure.
um, that's cool. I love that you
Yeah.
discovered that about yourself.
Yeah, and that too, like in regards to like reaching out to people, I do that. Like last week, I had Madi, one of the he kind of teaches social media rather marketing. He's versed in marketing, but he more so focused on social media, I mean on Instagram. So he had put up this post about give a piece of advice if you're an entrepreneur and you're making over six figures or something like that. And so all these people start putting down their stories of what they had experienced. So immediately, feel like God told me, like, start reaching out to these people. And I did it right away. And I was able to book like over like 20 something podcast episodes. People were saying yes. And I
That's
was just
so
like, yo, like y'all saying yes for real? Okay, cool. This is amazing. But I didn't second guess, based upon
mhm.
what I had felt, what I saw, and I knew to take advantage of the opportunity right then. So yeah. So yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
I feel like more
No,
people,
that's so awesome. I love that.
but honestly, I feel like a lot of creatives are undiagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know what because I even start, I sometimes through a lot of my content, I may even delve into talking about ADHD and things like that because I've been more open.
Mhm.
But I feel like a lot of people are undiagnosed, but they have these, but they're trying to medicate off of things that shouldn't necessarily be medicated on. So, for example, um, or don't realize, like they may try to say, and medicate, I don't necessarily mean just actual medication. I mean, say if someone say I need a complete break from social media, right? So you're trying to take
Mhm.
away something that, thinking that it's going to be the cure for what you may be experiencing, but you may need something deeper and to really figure out what that true issue is to really cure, to work with it instead of trying to, take it away, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I think the internet cut out a little bit, so I only caught the tail end of it that you were talking about the medication. Um, so yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, so what I was saying was that I think that often, um, that people try to, like, say if they want to take away social media for an example, right? Saying, and
Mhm.
they're using that not necessarily as a medication per se, but they're taking away social media thinking that that's going to cure the problem for them being easily distracted, or that they're just
Mhm.
addicted to social media, yada whatever, where they're not really tuned in to exactly what the true issue is, so that way they
Yeah.
can maneuver their life around based upon what the central issue is, instead of trying to medicate it with, like, I'm just going to take some time off. That's not really what it is. That's not your
Mhm.
real issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's super funny because I have heard so many people ever since TikTok came out. They're like, "Oh, I diagnosed myself on TikTok, and then I went to went to go get actually diagnosed, and it turns out I had ADHD." So you hear all the time about people who've diagnosed themselves on
Wow.
ADHD
Wow.
from TikTok. So yeah, no, I think there's the reason that I like doing this work is because I work with clients who are either formally diagnosed or just people who identify with even just my message, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a lot of people who are suffering, who are undiagnosed, or they don't understand and they're feeling really frustrated and they're like, oh, what the heck is going on? And so it can be really hard if you're not understanding your brain, right? So I say a lot of the time, it's like, okay, the medical model, it gives us answers. And then like, let's go over here and find a system that is going to support you and feeling more empowered.
Right.
So, I think it's just getting the message out there so that more people can um, have awareness around ADHD,
Yeah,
right?
for
So that
sure.
if you are struggling and you do connect with it, there's help, there's answers, there's communities, there's so much support that you can get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you, so, I'm probably going to ask you the same question because I know, what is the biggest with, having ADHD and, being impulsive, right? What is the biggest thing that you've done that you feel like that have worked in your favor?
Yeah, so I think investing in my coaching and all the coaches, investing in all the contractors that I work with right now, right? Just before this, we were talking about how I
Yeah.
pretty much went from a team of one VA to like 7 super quick.
Right.
And so for me, it's been a lot of that because, it was like, okay, cool. I have a really good month of income. And I think a lot of other people will say, I'm going to wait until this, like, make sure that I have this
Mhm.
consistent income. But for me,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's go all in. Right. And so
Yeah,
I'm like, this is what I want to work with. This is what I want to work with. This is what I want to work
for
with.
sure.
And then I put it in place. And then, I think, especially when you're a newer entrepreneur, right? My first full year of business is coming in October 9th.
Mm.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get afraid in that period in the first year because you don't necessarily
Mhm.
know where your next client is coming from,
Right.
or your income next month. I guess that's with
Yeah.
any entrepreneur, right?
Right.
But definitely my impulsivity of like, okay, cool, let's keep growing, let's keep going. I'm going to make this commitment now, and I'll figure out a way to
Yes.
bridge the gap, and I will figure out a way to pay these people and keep them on my team. So
Yes.
that has been hugely beneficial for me because
Yeah,
then my months just continuously grow because I'm expanding super quick. So it's really good.
for sure. I was hoping you was gonna mention this move to Tulum.
Oh yeah. Yes, that is also actually, I've moved a lot, right? Like I was living in Australia for 8 years. That was pretty impulsive. I met a guy and I knew him for like 3 days, and then I went back to Canada for a few days, and I was like, okay, mom, I'm gonna go live with this guy. My family was
Are
like,
you serious?
yeah, they were like, are you nuts? My brother was like, if you need anything like a plane ticket back here, please let me know. I was like, I'll be fine. And then I registered for university there so that I could stay, which was like $60,000 or something. So yeah, that still paying that off, but that was an impulsive decision that I followed through with. And then yeah, I went to move back to Canada, and Tulum was like Tulum itself wasn't on my radar for a long time, but I knew
Mm.
I wanted to move to Mexico. I knew I had to
Mhm.
get out of the winter. And so yeah, now I'm here, and same thing. I was impulsive with my apartment. I was like, that's where I want to live. I'll find a way to make it work. And I do every time. So yeah, it's pretty good.
So what are some ways that if someone is really, truly having a hard time with focusing and want to make their journey work,
Mhm.
what would you tell them?
I think like a huge part of it comes with like compassion and like self-love, right? Like you have to
Mm,
just come to this space where you stop fighting yourself all the time. Stop
mm,
forcing yourself into focusing, because it genuinely is just, I know what the cycle is like. You sit down and you're like, oh my God, I can't focus. And
mhm,
then you get really hard on yourself, and then you're really pissed off, and then you get overwhelmed and you're frustrated because you're like, why can't I focus? I just want to
mm,
focus. I can't get this done.
mhm,
So it just comes with like passion, compassion, and self-awareness, and saying,
mm,
okay, if I want to improve my focus, where are there periods in my life when I have been really focused?
mm,
And taking a look at those moments and saying, okay, what was it that made me feel really focused then?
mhm,
And understanding that, and how you can duplicate that again. The other thing that you can do is like, for me, ADHD is like a lifestyle, right?
mm,
And learning to improve how your brain is operating comes
mhm,
from, I exercise every single day. I have to,
mhm,
or else I'm a hot mess. Eating properly, like eating healthy foods, like is a must, because I notice that I get really tired. It's harder for me to focus if I'm not eating well.
mm,
Um, and dopamine is like one of the big things as well, is how can you give yourself little dopamine hits throughout the day. So that's why I
right.
use this planner that I mentioned earlier, the Aligned Planner, because it's
Mhm.
like you check things off when you finish them, and that is like a dopamine hit. So it's like, okay, cool.
Got
So
it.
So I
So you
think
need to
there's,
hack your dopamine system then.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Dopamine comes from like dancing to your favorite song. It comes also from
mm,
exercising. It also comes
mm,
from eating food. It comes from, there's something online called the dopamine menu. And people
mm,
actually get dopamine from being on their phone, seeing how many likes
mm.
that you get.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I think people are addicted to their phones, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it's finding other ways to like have wins in your day that can
Mm,
give you that. Yeah. So if people want to look up something called, it's called the dopa menu. I think it's on Pinterest. One of my clients shared it with me. It's super cute. So it has like an appetizer, a main, a dessert. So you can
really?
like choose your flavor of dopamine, let's say. So if you need like a longer break, you know, even like petting a dog or playing with a
Mhm.
dog can give you dopamine or something like that.
Mm.
Getting out for
Oh,
a walk. So
yeah.
there's so many things in your life that you may or may not be doing already that you can kind of start to incorporate. So
Mm.
um you know, focus can also, there's so many things that you can do for focusing. I like, if I have a huge busy day and I need to stay on schedule
Mhm.
like super intensely, I'll use a Pomodoro timer. I don't like
Mm.
doing it all the time because it's, I just don't like doing it all the time. But if I
Yeah.
have a super busy day, it's like, okay, I need to set my timer and I need to just like crush out some work. So it's
Yeah.
be just mindfulness. Um, like I mentioned, I use that strategy. It is a method of focusing, right? And allowing my
Mm.
brain to show up as it wants, and
Yeah.
having a task list that I hold myself accountable to.
Mm.
So there's lots. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And as I'm going through, like, with your how you take your client, what is how do you take your client from when they come into you and they're chaotic to, they're like, man, I'm a mess, to where they're seeing um a level of what they experience as success. Because is the success for somebody who has ADHD different from some success that somebody who doesn't? Like, where do you typically measure that at?
So I think it's kind of different for everybody else, right? Like it depends
Mm-hmm.
on the client. So the offer that I have right now, the ADHD Business University, so
Mm-hmm.
that is essentially a year long,
Mm-hmm.
and that process is a lot of inner work and transformation alongside of business strategy. Because
Mm-hmm.
what happens is um, you know, you are only as effective as the way that you're showing up. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're showing up as someone who's like super scattered, super disorganized, really overwhelmed, right? That's only as effective as your business is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of if you have all the business strategies in the world. It doesn't
Wow.
matter because
Yeah.
you're scattered and disorganized applying these business strategies.
Mm.
So a huge portion of it for me is, okay, like how do you need to understand yourself? How do you do a lot of internal work
Mm-hmm.
to get yourself to this place of, okay, now I can implement these strategies because I feel
Mm-hmm.
more calm, I feel more aligned, I feel more organized.
Right.
um, so the process that I use is my signature offer, and it's called the Accomplished Mind Method.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I took that and I basically put it into my business program, and it goes through,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how are you actually showing up in this world?
Yeah.
What is it that you really want for yourself? Who do
Mm-hmm.
you need to be rather than like, what do you have to do? So, like, if you need to
Mm-hmm.
be more calm, more organized, more committed to yourself, what does that look
Yeah.
like? Um, a lot of this stuff too is releasing old narratives and social stories about what it's supposed to look like, quote
Mm.
unquote, for us to be successful
Got it. So a
in
lot of
business.
unlearning and
And
relearning.
yes, tons of unlearning. Yeah. And so it's transformational work, right? And it's messy sometimes because it's like
Mhm.
you start to question everything. Like, you know, at the
Mhm.
end of the day, everything that we know and how we operate in our lives is just a habit and something that we learned. A lot
Yeah.
of the stuff that people are living out is beliefs and understandings and learnings of the world from
Mhm.
what we've been taught. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily our life. It's not what
Right.
we wanted to create for ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unlearning all of that stuff, questioning everything, and then saying,
Mhm.
okay, well, what is going to serve me? How
Mhm.
do I actually want to be living my life? What does my
Yeah.
business look like in that context?
Right.
And one of the examples of this is when I moved to Tulum. This was something I wanted to do when I retired because that's what I thought was supposed to happen. And
Mm.
finally coming to this place of like, well, why can't I just do it right now? Well,
Right.
I have no reason that I can't. I was just taught that you're supposed to stay at home, buy a house, get married, get a car, and then
Mm.
have kids, and then you can retire and do what you want.
Right. That's
So
so good.
yeah, a lot of unlearning, relearning, releasing things that aren't serving you. I do a lot of work with the subconscious mind as well. So how
Mm.
can you start to propel yourself forward without having to consciously think about it all the time?
Yeah.
um and then once we kind of have all that inner work and that component done, then it's like, okay, let's focus on your business strategies. How can you
Got
start
it.
to grow your business now? Yeah.
Mm. I love that. I love that. I love
And
that.
two, a lot is emotional regulation with
Mm.
people with ADHD.
Now
So
that's real. That
yeah.
emotional regulation is for real.
Oh yeah.
I've,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's for real. Cause let me
Yeah.
tell you, we can go be up high. When you on that high, boy, it's like the world. You can take the world by storm.
Yes.
But when you on that low, ooh,
Oh, it's bad.
you do not want to be bothered at all.
No. Yeah. So
Anybody
it's
can get it.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody.
Oh, it's
I
so
better
funny.
back up. Leave
Yeah.
me alone.
Yeah, so a lot of it is working through that and allowing yourself to experience the full spectrum of emotion, and
Hmm.
then also how do you move through it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. I just want to thank you so much for saying yes, giving us all these gems. This has been it's been helpful for me for sure. So I'm sure it's been helpful for anyone else that will listen. Um, do you have any last words or pieces of advice that you want to give someone? And also make sure that you give them out your information so they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun, and I love your energy, and you
I just
know,
love you.
yeah. It's so good. So yeah, last pieces of advice, like, literally live your life. Like that's all I can say is like just go and like enjoy yourself. I just say
Yeah.
that to people all the time is like just do what you want to do in your life. Like remove yourself from what you're quote unquote supposed to do.
Mm.
And so it's a lot of like my Instagram, which is where they can find me, which is annemarie.espina. And yeah, they can find me on there. I also have the ADHD Business University, so it's this year-long
Whoop, whoop.
intensive program to just really take your business 5 years ahead and help you get there as well with your ADHD. So yeah, I
Awesome.
just love connecting with people, hearing their stories. So would love to connect with any of your listeners, and I've really enjoyed being here today. It's been tons of fun.
Of course, of course. Now, I ask all my guests because Soul Food Sunday is, I love to cook. That's one of the reasons why I named the podcast this. But also, typically, when people eat soul food, it just fills them up to a different where like nothing in the world matters.
Mm.
It fills the soul. That's what the words of advice and the encouragement that I want my guests to bring. It fills entrepreneur soul. It infuels them, right? But I have to ask you, like, what's your favorite food though? Like,
Oh my God.
if I'm coming to Tulum and we're like, yo, let's go to the grocery store. I want to throw down. What do you want me to cook?
Oh man. Oh, I was thinking restaurants. I'm like, what restaurants can I take you to? All of them. They're so good. I'm not much of a cook. No, okay, because I'm in Mexico right now, I am so obsessed with Mexican food. Like, oh
Oh
my
my God, I
God, just
love Mexican food.
I am telling you here, there is nothing like it. Like, it's just beautiful. It's so amazing. Like street
Mhm.
tacos, nothing like it.
Mhm.
And I also really love pizza. Like, pizza is one of my favorite
Really?
meals. Yeah, I love pizza.
What do you like on your pizza?
Okay, it depends where it's from. So, if it's like if it's like, what is it called? Like Domino's. My favorite Domino's is like Hawaii, or actually cheese with like just tons of pineapple.
Yeah,
And
I can't do pineapple on pizza. Well, that's you. This is about you. This is not about Korea. Let me get myself together.
and like if it's like a super thin crust,
Mhm.
like prosciutto with like something. I don't know. I like mushroom. Now I'm like salivating. I'm like, I gotta eat pizza for lunch.
Or get you some street tacos.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'll have to send you a photo.
That's funny. That's funny. So that's what's up. Okay. So now I know when I come to
Yeah.
Tulum what we're eating. Got it.
I got so many good restaurants I can take you to. Don't even, the food here is amazing. And you can get like, 5-star food for like $60 for two people. It's so
What?
good. Like, yeah, like 3 courses. Yeah.
Oh, you know I'm on the way. I actually will be there in December because I'll be in
Oh my God, yeah.
Cancun for a friend of mine's birthday. So I said I'll
Yeah.
probably come to Tulum for a couple of
Oh my
days.
gosh, you have to. We
Yeah,
have to.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Well, y'all heard it here. Korea's going to Tulum with Ann, and Ann is going to be taking Korea to all the restaurants.
Heck yeah. Now they know when they see us on IG.
Right. So y'all gonna be seeing some dope reels in come December from the two
Yeah.
of us. But thank you again, Ann. I really appreciate you. And for you listeners, make sure y'all follow Ann. If you know that you can need some assistance in that area, definitely holla at your girl. And till next time, we'll see you.
Thank you. See you later.